What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of Games Up podcast. My name is Cameron, and he is Lewis.
Hello.
There we go. Wondering how long it would take you to say hello there. And we are still here covering E3 2017, as we do every year. It is currently 20 to 6 in the morning in the UK, and we are a little bit shattered, but we have just been finished watching Bethesda's E3 press conference 2017. Much shorter than usual.
Yeah, so
40 minutes.
40 minutes.
Yeah.
Quite surprising, really, actually.
Yeah, only 40 minutes. Minimal announcements, but actually, well, not as few as... Yeah, I guess they crammed a lot in for 40 minutes. Like, there was a lot of stuff in the show.
Yeah, I don't know really how much we can say is new, though. I think that's the big thing. But it is all stuff that's coming out this year.
Yeah, that's true. And I would... Well, let's get into it. Obviously, the way that we do these shows is we work chronologically through the press conference, going reveal by reveal, giving our reactions to them. So we started with the Bethesda Land stuff. So it turns out Bethesda Land is not just the theme for the invite, it's actually the theme for the whole press conference. And it's kind of done less like an on-stage presentation, more like a sort of VFX package, where it walks you through a sort of Fallout style 1940s Bethesda Land thing, taking you through each stage of the theme park, the fictional theme park. And the first two reveals were all VR games. We knew that Fallout VR was coming. Apparently it's coming this year. I don't think they dated it, did they?
I don't know.
I can't remember them dating it. I might be remembering that wrongly. But then they also revealed Doom VR, which looked less like Doom the game last year. It looked more like kind of closed off arenas.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is that Doom in the way that it is never going to work with VR, where you've got to teleport around and you know, like ultimately it's going to have to be tooled to make it work this way. So it's not too surprising. The
thing that makes Doom really work is the speed of movement and the speed of the like picking stuff up and dropping stuff and switching between weapons and all that jazz. So yeah, I get what you mean. This looked more like kind of switching between, you move from arena to arena, killing stuff in Doom style combat within that arena. Don't really know how it's going to work in VR, like especially if you're on a fixed point. Maybe this is like a Vive game, but this is one of those things that brings into question how legitimate VR can ever really be, because I don't really know anyone with the space to run a Doom game in their living room. And I wonder how many, I guess we don't really know how it's going to work, but that is the question of how will it work. So then they went on to give more detail about Fallout VR, which the big tagline for it was that it's a full open world game in VR. You've got to assume it's like teleporting around the open world.
Yeah, they didn't actually draw attention to that. Like in Doom, they made a point of showing how the game worked, and I think in the Fallout one they didn't actually show teleporting, I don't believe. So I don't know, maybe if they're still trying to work out another way of doing it.
Maybe. The other thing that occurs to me is that, like, they could do it with just regular controller support, but I feel like just using a controller really gets away from what makes VR VR. Like, I feel like when you introduce a controller to... I've done VR demos with controllers, and I feel like whenever you introduce a controller, it just feels less like... It just feels like playing a regular game on a different screen.
Really? Because I think, I don't think that's the reason why there's been a push away from controllers. I think one of the big things, like, the amount of people that had headaches and all of this motion sickness and stuff like that related to not having like a proper control system. That's what brought about the teleportation system, and as opposed to the using a controller.
So we can see them playing it on a screen in front of us right now, and it looks like there's no teleporting. It looks like regular movement, so I'm going to say it's probably controller support. Yeah. There's no way you're doing that walking in Vive. Yeah. That would be amazing, but there's no way you're doing it. So, so the first two reveals for the conference were major VR games. Then we got a trailer for The Elder Scrolls Online Morrowind, which has been out for a bit, I think. So nothing too particularly surprising. Sorry if you're hearing some like construction noises in the background. Can't really help that. It's been out for a little while, so nothing too surprising, I think. Then we got the announcement of Creation Club, which is like so it's based around mods for Fallout and mods for Elder Scrolls Skyrim, which had its special edition on Xbox One and PS4 last year. So one of the things that was special about that special edition and Fallout on those consoles is that they had mod support on the consoles, and Creation Club looks like a way for Bethesda to do premium mod support. So paying for mods that they've made, paying for mods that third-party developers have made, and paying for mods that really well-known community members or highly used community members have made. Basically, it seems like a way of taking the most popular mods and kind of making them premium in some form, putting some kind of money behind them, even if it's not strictly paying for them. It's some kind of premium cash.
Yeah, and the thing I always worry about these is that you don't want it to become like Greenlight, for example. So it has to be fairly controlled, I guess. Yeah,
and Bethesda have been pretty good at issuing some kind of control on the mod support that they've done so far as I'm aware. So I don't think we have to worry too much about this being Greenlight. I mean, the thing that's fairly good about it is limited to 2 games on 2 consoles. Yeah. So it's not going to be overwhelming. There'll be a lot of content for them to work through, but I think they're more likely to handpick stuff and put it on this marketplace than just open applications to it.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't really get details of how it will work, but I imagine that's the closest kind of idea we can get for it. So from Creation Club, we then saw a trailer for the Elder Scrolls card game. I think it's called the Elder Scrolls Legends. There was the announcement of a new content drop, and it is wintry themed. I may be missing the point on that one. I'm not really much of a Skyrim player, but they had winter themed. So that was the Elder Scrolls Legends, the card game. Then we got a really upbeat, jazzy trailer for Skyrim on the Switch. So that's my prediction. Dan, you've been very quiet.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right. You particularly watched this kind of upbeat, jazzy trailer for Switch Skyrim. What did you think?
It's not. It doesn't really go with Skyrim. That's the strange thing about it. It's kind of what would happen if you said, make Skyrim look appealing to kids, make it look like that. So that's kind of interesting.
It was like a very Nintendo Skyrim trailer.
Yeah, exactly. Now, they made a point of showing that you can use your amiibos.
Yep, your Zelda amiibo to get Zelda content within the game, which is really awesome. Zelda's a really good fit, I feel like, for the Elder Scrolls, especially with the way that Breath of the Wild has taken off this year. Lots of people are going to like that. Lots of people... I mean, Skyrim is an incredibly well-regarded game already, and so is Breath of the Wild. So for people to be able to take from one to the next, that's a really, really strong feature. People will love that. Interestingly, it wasn't dated, so there's no idea of when this is releasing. I still say that it probably doesn't release soon, but I got the prediction wrong for it anyway. So we'll see. The next thing that was mentioned was the first reveal of a full new game, although it was we were a little unsure about it at first. So it's Dishonored, Death of the Outsider, which follows Bill from Dishonored 2, who is apparently going to kill the Outsider in a standalone Dishonored game. So it's not a DLC drop for Dishonored 2. It's not like a numbered third sequel. It's kind of a bit of a standalone spin-off to Dishonored. Kind of interesting that it's not in Corvo's family line. I don't know. I didn't get through Dishonored 2. I haven't finished it yet. Maybe I will. But I wasn't really driven to finish Dishonored 2. Whenever I got through the next level, I was a bit kind of ready to put it down for a bit. And the only real connection I had to it at the stage I'm at now is that I'm still playing as Corvo, the character, and the systems that I really enjoyed from the first one. If Corvo and his family line are not in there, I don't know how driven I'd actually be to finish the game in any real meaningful form.
But if you've had trouble with Dishonored 2, then maybe you're not as connected as you might think.
Yeah, maybe. I kind of feel like this will be a Far Cry Primal to the Far Cry 4, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it's not a full sequel. It will be a B-Team spin-off kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that it's not
likely.
I'm glad that it's not DLC. I'm glad that it is a standalone game, and I'm glad that in that it's a premium product, and I'm glad that it's got clearly enough to be a game. I wonder whether this was DLC at some point, and maybe it's become a fuller game as they've actually explored the possibilities of it.
Yeah, hopefully it's got enough to make it worth that, because I think like the backlash from that kind of stuff can be quite bad.
Yeah, definitely.
If it's not, but yeah, it looks good. It looks interesting at the very least. I like the idea of it. Yeah.
So the next thing discussed was Quake Champions. There was a new trailer for Quake Champions, which was a little bit cheesy. It had a lot of that kind of fake online multiplayer chat, like, oh wow, look at this, and oh, that was good. You done the objective or whatever. And they never really go down particularly well, especially with the kind of speed and professionalism that they're trying to advertise for Quake. It didn't really connect particularly well. But then they announced the Quake Championship, which is an official esports tournament for Quake. Kind of makes sense. Quake is like well known as a big esports profile game. It's a well known esports player. And so a big championship for it makes a lot of sense. There's a $1 million prize pool, and further details to be announced closer to the time, I assume.
Yeah. Quake's still played in esports circles anyway, so it'd be nice for the... I don't know if they're playing with the new one, but maybe. But yeah, so I'm probably quite interested in it, actually, as someone who kind of liked the classic Quake games.
I have never played a Quake. It looks really awesome, but it looks like the kind of thing I would absolutely suck at. Like, it looks so fast. I have no idea how anyone would play that. And at that point, like, I actually think Quake would be a game I'd rather watch than play.
It's one of the ones that, like, so the big thing about Quake in the past was that it's probably a game you want to play on PC.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You know?
I don't expect this to come to consoles.
Yeah.
Well, maybe next year it comes to consoles. But I definitely think that this is something I'd rather. It looks so fast and intense, and I don't know that that's what I'm particularly good at in terms of games. And at that kind of level, I think I'd rather watch somebody be good at it than try and be good at it myself.
Yeah.
So then we got the next big reveal, which was one of the under construction games from the invite, which was The Evil Within 2. What were your initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, so they've done a very cinematic trailer with lots of different horror themes explored throughout of it. Very interesting, I think. You know, it's kind of something that would draw me in quite a bit. You know, the elements of like PT that's explored in there that you picked up on. And in general, like, one of the things I liked about the first game is that they did use all of these kind of different horror elements and explore it, and it would be nice to see what they do with this in the next one. And it did, you know, like the way they advertised it here, the way they did the trailer here pushes that kind of, you know, continuation of those themes, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. The trailer was fantastic. Like, it was so imaginative and so striking in the way it used horror. Lots of horror trailers are kind of darkness, pacing, tension, jump scare, darkness, pacing, tension, jump scare. And actually this was full of really striking imagery, full of really imaginative, deep, dark... Like, horror is, in my opinion, most efficient and most effective when it's making you think about what you're looking at, because it's more scary than just... There's a deeper level of scare when you're contemplating what's scary rather than just going, wow, that's a big monster that's running at me. Like, it's what makes things like Twin Peaks and The Twilight Zone and, you know, classic monster movies, and it's what makes that kind of stuff, in my opinion, more classically scary.
You're not wrong, but I will say that Evil Within 2 will have plenty of jump scares.
Oh yeah, definitely. But this trailer was really, really good at showing off the more kind of scary, because of what you don't see kind of horror.
Yeah.
It was absolutely striking. It went on for a good few minutes as well. Really deep and really long. Very Japanese in its style. Kind of lots and lots of side scenes and lots of stuff that probably won't ever make its way into the game, but is really there to build the world. It was a really, really great trailer, and I think if ever a trailer made me want to play a horror game, that was probably it. I'll never play it, not because it doesn't look good, just because I just absolutely can't. But it looks fantastic. And then the big one last thing revealed. So this was the conference basically up to this point.
We were quite just before you do this, but we were quite surprised because we're 30 minutes way through this, and we didn't know. They said we're coming towards the end now, and everyone went, "What?"
Yeah, I kind of wondered whether they might do a thing like they did with Fallout, where they go, so the next thing to be revealed was Wolfenstein 2, the New Colossus, and I kind of wondered whether they might go, here's Wolfenstein 2, the New Colossus, now here's us playing it for 20 minutes, here's all the systems. Because they did that with Fallout 4, where they said, here's Fallout 4, and here's literally everything you can do in it. And it's out in 3 months. And that Bethesda have really kind of set the pace for those kind of reveals. So I wondered if they might do that again. And we got a really extended look into what Wolfenstein 2, the New Colossus is. We got a really extended look into that game, but it wasn't that. It was 10 minutes of it, and then the conference was over.
Yeah.
What did you think of the New Colossus?
So, as someone who kind of really enjoyed the last two Wolfenstein games, it does what I wanted, because the thing that made the thing that made the Wolfenstein games really good was this extra element of story that they were adding in. That's what I really enjoyed about Wolfenstein. That's what a lot of people really enjoyed about Wolfenstein. That's what made it become good, because they've tried rebooting Wolfenstein quite a few times, and it's kind of never really clicked, but this most recent edition has, and I think that's what's kind of done it for them. And you can see in this that they're really trying to push that more. They made a big point of kind of showing loads of different story scenes and showing loads of different things going on. So it interests me quite a lot.
I loved the Wolfenstein trailer. Absolutely loved it. It felt so elseworldy and so
creepy.
But creepy in a kind of existential creepy way, in like a Black Mirror creepy way. It didn't feel like it was really creepy because it felt so of a different world and of a kind of parallel universe-y kind of way. And it felt really authentic. Like the way the characters interacted with each other and the way the NPCs interacted with each other. There was a great moment where a commandant walked into a malt shop and slid over to the player character and asked for your identification papers. But the way that they did it with such charisma and such charm and such kind of horrible war, like it felt genuine. And I think that's quite a horrible thing to deal with when what you're dealing with is the fake victory of the Nazi regime. That feeling genuine is a very unpleasant thing to see. And it's unpleasant in a way that actually I really want to look at that world and look at that kind of what this society is. I really liked some of the characters. I got a bit of a Mafia vibe off the trailer, which I don't think I'll get from the game. I think the game... I was saying to you, I think it's almost kind of a shame that what comes out of this is a Wolfenstein game, because, like, I'm sure it's very good, and I will play this, and it looks really good, but, like, I kind of want a different way to explore this world. Like, I'd kind of like more than just shooting it.
Yeah, I can appreciate where you come from with that, but I just don't know if it would have the appeal, I guess, what you're looking for.
Yeah, and I know that at the end of the day, this has to be... Well, it doesn't have to be, but at the end of the day, it's, you know, what's going to sell it best is it being a shooter. But I don't know, like, this felt so Bioshocky. I almost wanted some kind of Bioshocky gameplay to build on that world. But who knows? Maybe they can tell this story just as well with a shooter. Maybe I'm underselling them by saying that that's a shame. I'm really excited to see what it is, nonetheless.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was the conference wrapped up. What were your closing thoughts?
So short and sweet. I think it started pretty slow.
Yeah.
I think like, you know, when we ended it, I was like unsure about it, but then when we go through, I'm like, Evil Within 2 looks cool, Wolfenstein looks cool, Dishonored looks cool, Quake looks cool. So everything in the second half was good. The Bethesda land was a bit weird and never really worked.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's really weird that they hired a theatre to do this. Like, this must have cost them a shit ton of money, and we never saw somebody on stage. Like, there was somebody, they walked on stage to open the conference, they walked on stage to close the conference. But, like, they didn't really need to do that. They could have very easily shown this off as, like, a Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, definitely.
Style thing. This could have been just an online presentation, and I don't think anyone would have minded, because it's clearly not as big a year for Bethesda as it's been the past 2 years. Like, I don't think anyone would have minded that it wasn't a massive on-stage showing. I don't think anybody's expecting that from Bethesda every year. So
no.
So I think this could have been much better suited to an online presentation, but. Like, yeah, the Bethesda LAN style... I think the Bethesda LAN style didn't work because they did it as a conference.
Yeah.
Like, if it had been an online presentation, actually, the Bethesda LAN style could have worked a lot better, because it would have been that kind of trivial way of breaking up the games in between and having that pacing there. But because it felt like somebody was walking on stage at some point, I don't know, maybe we got disconnected from it here, and I imagine it would have felt even more disconnecting to be in the room with it. I think this was just as good as the Microsoft conference, but the Microsoft conference had lower lows.
Okay.
Like, the Bethesda conference had flat moments, right? Like, most of the opening stuff was flat. Doom VR was great, Fallout VR was great. I don't really care about the Elder Scrolls, so half of that stuff didn't land with me, and Creation Club didn't land with me. But, like, it was just flat.
Yeah.
Whereas the Microsoft stuff was, like, embarrassing and dumb.
Yeah, maybe that's probably fair.
So the highs of this were just as high. Like, the really great trailers from Xbox were really great trailers. The really great trailers and reveals here were really great trailers and reveals, but its lows weren't anywhere near as low.
I'd put some of these a bit higher.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Probably.
All right.
Afraid so.
No, that's fair enough.
Like, from my place, like, Dishonored looked really good. Evil Within it, like the ones that you know, I'm going to say. I think that they probably reached slightly higher than Microsoft's stuff.
Fair enough.
But I do agree with the point of, like...
I'm not going to hold it against you. Microsoft press conference was a fucking train wreck, so...
It did have its flat moments, but I think it picked up at least. Like, I think this is probably... Maybe if they started a bit better, but it's still kind of the way that it should be done.
Had this been an online presentation, it would have been pretty damn good.
I would have liked... Well, this isn't even on them. This is like me being used to Sony ruining E3.
Yeah.
As a thing.
I do wonder whether maybe this is just a slower E3 this year.
Yeah, I mean, so what I was going to say is I want to see a new AAA game being announced.
I mean, you just saw 2.
No, but something we don't know about is the big point. Like,
Dishonored?
we knew Evil... Yeah, but I think that's an interesting one. I don't know if that's what that is.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be in the same thing. But I mean, like, I want to see... Like, this has been a year of leaks, you know?
See, this is really interesting, because I came into this year thinking, wow, there's not been a lot of leaks. Like, I came into this year thinking, if we know what we do of Xbox, of Sony, of Nintendo, of Bethesda, of these conferences, we don't know a lot. But actually, we do know most of this. It's just that there's not a lot there. Yeah,
and I suppose that's fair. But it is a bit upsetting when there isn't kind of... Well, not upsetting. But, you know, like...
It's just,
as I say, it's Sony ruining E3, and I want to see a AAA game that's
I
new.
disagree. I think it's just a slower, flatter E3. I think we're used to more major reveals from Xbox. Yeah. I think we're used to more major reveals from Bethesda so far. And... You know, even if Ubisoft has some major reveals, I think just the tenor and pace of E3 this year has been slightly slower. And it makes sense. We've had 2-3 years of really hard-hitting E3s. So the fact that this one may be a bit slower is kind of alright.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, it depends. I mean, like, the leaks don't help, and like, you know, say Far Cry 5 could have been announced at E3, you know.
Yeah, it would have leaked though, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that they got it out beforehand because I'm more excited to watch it now.
Yeah, true.
Nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, that was our thoughts on Bethesda's much shorter E3 conference for 2017. What did you think? We would always love to hear your feedback, of course. So that was the show. Thank you very much for listening to it. If you did, please consider dropping it a like because it lets us know that we're doing something good. It helps us get out in front of a few more people, which we'd really, really appreciate it. And, well, it buoys us up a little bit. We'd also love for you to subscribe to the show because we've still got loads of E3 to come. Oh, God, I can't wait to sleep. We've still got loads of E3 to come. We've also got one of these shows going out 6:30 every Monday, and we'd hate for you to miss them, especially if you found us because of E3. Thanks very much for listening. Come to us on Facebook. We are facebook.com/GamesUpcast, and we will see you for the next press conference, which I believe is Ubisoft, in a fair few hours' time. Night-night. And the game's up.